G'day guys, Wereman here. Welcome back to the workshop. We are still working on optional rules discussions with Adam.
Hooray!
There are so many optional rules out there, eh? So many.
Taryn was talking about mines and missiles and stuff and things like that. I said, well, okay, well, show me what you've got.
Show me what you've got.
Yeah, I want to know.
There's only really a couple. I mean, there's still a few missile variants, I think, that we haven't really gone into. Some of the more current era stuff. I think there's some really cool missile racks and things. I think some people have mentioned them in the comments, actually.
Yeah.
But the main optional rule for people that take a lot of LRMs and or things that fire LRMs.
I know someone.
I'm not putting my hand up at all. Is hot loading.
Oh, okay.
So what hot loading is, and I'm pretty sure we've mentioned this before, but we may as well go into the actual rule. It's basically just the Hunt for Red October thing. You're putting them into the tube armed. Okay? You've seen Hunt for Red October, haven't you? You're looking at me
forever ago. Yeah. I remember some singing or something, and
yeah,
that was about it.
There was a thing. There was the commander's turning us into the torpedo sort of thing, and by turning into the torpedo, you get there before it arms. You see, and then the Russian guy goes, "Oh, you take the safeties off." That's basically what this is.
Whoa.
You're just taking the safeties off, right? So that means, though, that what you have is, one, no minimum range. So there is no minimum range because that's why the minimum range exists. It's the time it takes for the missiles to think, oh, well, okay, there's my target. This is where I am. This is how I get there. Oh, I better be ready to explode when I end up there.
Yeah.
So it's that arming time that is a thing. So you can still fire it at those ranges, but it is very difficult to get any of them to actually hurt someone.
Right.
That's why the modifier goes up so high.
So this is a rule to help people who play inner sphere LRMs primarily.
Yes.
To get around these penalties at short range, which the clans don't have to worry about because,
It does actually mention ATMs. Specifically.
Yes, it would.
So there's
the long range things. I think they had a minimum of 4 or something.
Yeah. So they have a minimum range there. But we are on page 103 of TAC Ops, which has been where we are for a little while now. I don't think ATMs are in here. Are they in? Yes, they are. So every single ATM missile has a 4 minimum range there.
No, I don't think the high explosive does.
That is the one they list there is...
The standard?
Yeah, okay. I was following the wrong line there. So all except the high explosive one have a 4 minimum range.
Yeah.
So you can technically hot load your ATMs if you don't want that +4 at 0 range, at 1 hex away.
God, you'd have to be pretty desperate in that case.
You'd have to be, because it's basically an armed missile sitting in the missile rack, which means, well, for a start, you have to designate them as hot loaded before you start the scenario. So before you deploy everybody, you have to mark on your sheet that this ton of LRMs is hot loaded. This ton of ATM whatever is hot loaded. Right. So it goes by slot, which is cool. That's for mechs. For vehicles, you can designate during the battle. So you can announce hot loading during the end phase of a turn. After the end phase of the following turn, any of the vehicle's LRM or ATM launchers can be set to fire hot loaded missiles. Player may follow the same procedure to switch back to normal firing. And you might want to do that because the downside is if your LRM launcher, say you're an archer and you get out there and you go, okay, these 2 tons of ammo for my LRM 20s are hot loaded. Everything's hot loaded. I don't want minimum range. That means that if either of those LRM 20s in your torsos take a critical hit, they explode as if they were an ammo location. So rather than just being destroyed, they blow up like 20 points of ammo.
Oh.
So.
Oh, yeah, because it's LRM 20s.
Because it's LRM 20s in an archer's
20
chest. Yep. So an LRM 15 blows up for 15 points of damage.
Oh.
And it's not good. But that minimum range is nasty for standard LRMs for inner sphere players.
Ooh, I tell you what, if you're a grasshopper pilot, you might want to think very
Yeah,
carefully about that. They've got that LRM5 in their head.
very carefully. So, the other downside is that when they take the when you hot load them, it messes with the guidance. So when you're doing your cluster hit table, you roll 3d6 and you take the two lowest,
Oh, okay.
which is nasty.
Yeah, that is nasty.
All right.
Yeah, that's terrible.
It is better than a +7, but honestly,
Yes.
I think just stripping a clan mech down and shoving their in there would be
Oh,
better.
if you want to go into clan space and try and get one, go for it.
Yeah.
But no.
So the missile explosion destroys the launcher's critical slots, all of them, right? So you don't get to use them for critical fishing later on. Also, the body location of the launcher takes damage equal to the maximum potential damage of the missile flight. Anytime a hot-loaded missile launcher explodes, the controlling player rolls 2d6. On a 2 to 5, the destruction of the launcher triggers an ammunition explosion in a single ammunition slot in that location, randomly determined, if any exist in that location. So that won't happen for vehicles because all vehicles have their ammunition in the body, so none of them are actually loaded near the launcher. But something like an archer, where you've got the launcher and the ammo in the torso,
Yeah.
if that launcher takes a critical, it destroys the launcher. You take 20 points of damage to the torso, and you have to roll 2d6. And if you get a 2 to 5, it also blows up the ammo that's in that location. Wow. So you're taking a lot of risks. A lot of risks. But some people, including myself, would say that that's kind of worth it in some circumstances, especially if you're using vehicle-loaded stuff.
Yeah.
Right? If you've got LRM carriers...
Yeah.
and they're at the back of the thing, and someone managed to get like a Stinger or a Wasp or something small and fast back there and start harassing them, if they don't have backup, but they've got hot-loaded LRMs, you can shoot him without these like minimum range things that always mess you up when you're trying to shoot close range with LRMs. And they're not as accurate, so you don't get your cluster roll as high, and you've got the potential if you take that hit to have them explode, but still, you know.
Wow. So that's a tough call, eh? Because an LRM carrier can really pump out those missiles.
320 racks, even with rolling 3d6 and taking the two lowest on the cluster hit, you're still getting, I think the lowest cluster for that is like 10? 8?
Was it 12?
No, that's a 40. 6.
6. Okay.
All right, so the lowest you can possibly get is 6. Right, and that, yeah, I mean, what you're probably going to end up with is around 9 or 12.
Well, that's still
Most
pretty
likely.
good. That's all right.
You'll most likely end up with about 9 to 12. And that is 3 times for each LRM carrier that you've got there. No Locust, Wasp, or Stinger is going to survive that. They're not going to live through that. Right? So if they're pointed towards you and you run around the hill and start trying to cause havoc and they've hot-loaded their missiles and they can all get a bead on you, you're stuffed. You're stuffed.
It's not always possible to sort of spread out the LRM carriers so as they can protect each other at a short range if one of them gets threatened, so the others don't have the penalty for the...
Exactly. But with hot loading, you can group them up and
worry.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I mean, if you're using them indirect, then that isn't such a big deal, but it's like you can hit things just over the hill without taking minimum range modifiers. You see, you can chuck them over there and not worry about it. So that could actually be quite handy. Related to that, all missile-related equipment still apply all their standard modifiers when using this rule. So Artemis 4 and 5, NARC and TAG munitions and so on. Smoke and illumination rounds are unaffected by hot loading missiles. So they all still work. You can still indirect fire at a narc or tag unit.
Right. So 3d6, pick the lowest two, add 2 or 3 or whatever the... Okay. Yeah.
I think that's worth it, to tell you the truth.
That's all right. That's okay. If you can get that plus, any sort of plus modifiers to it, that would be good.
The only thing I would think is use it for things like catapults. Like LRM carriers, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
But mech-wise, I'd go with a catapult because all the ammo is in the torso, but the weapons are in the arms. You see, so you haven't got that ammo explosion problem. That's not going to happen. You'll take damage, it'll blow the arm off, but at least you're not risking an ammo explosion as well. With it, things like archers, was it Vikings, Banes, all those sort of things where there's launchers near the ammo, I'd be a little iffy about it.
Look at that, the catapult just got even better. But that's good because you've got a couple of LRMs and it's got its medium lasers to back it up. You've suddenly got a catapult coming into like point blank.
And you've got a seriously deadly weapon there.
That's great.
That is insanely deadly. But I mean, like I say, the cluster hit thing I'm not happy with, but to skip that 7 when you try and get close I think that's worth it.
Yeah.
Because even with my rolls, like I say, you're getting 6, 9, 12, something like that. You get like a 2 or a 3 on each one, and you're picking the 2 lowest. 1, 2, or 3. You're getting a 2, 3, or 4. So you're getting 6s, 9s, 12s. It's still a decent amount of damage.
Yeah.
It's more than your medium lasers are doing. So I'm cool with that.
Wow. I like that.
It's worth noting that if a vehicle has a crew of 1, it can't make use of hot-loaded LRMs unless they're designated before the start of the game. So a normal crew like an LRM carrier, they can chop and change.
Yeah.
But if you put LRMs in a Savannah Master, you wouldn't be able to change it, and you'd have to either say yes or no at the beginning of the scenario.
Are there any one crew?
Not that I'm aware of, but I very rarely pay attention to how many crew are in a vehicle.
Yeah.
I just go, what weapons has it got?
It'd have to be a light one because as they get bigger, they add more.
Yeah. There is actually a formula for figuring out how many crew your vehicle should have.
Oh, yeah.
It's in tech manual, I think. I'll have a look.
Okay.
See if I can figure it out.
But still,
the other thing that's mentioned on 103 there under missiles is mine clearing, and it says mine clearing attacks are unaffected by this distinction. But we haven't actually done mine clearing missiles.
We've talked about mines.
And we've talked about mine laying missiles, so the Thunder LRMs. But you can get standard LRMs, standard SRM, and MML missiles that clear minefields. So you use the same rules as a standard missile, but you shoot at a hex, not a unit, so you can't shoot it at a unit. Units occupying the same hex hit by mine clearance missiles suffer damage as if from an area effect weapon strike equal to an equivalent missile volley at 1/4 of the rated size rounded down.
Okay.
So a volley of mine-clearing missiles fired by an LRM-20 will inflict damage to a 5-point area effect weapon. Mine-clearing missiles from an SRM-6 equivalent to 1 SRM. So 6 divided by 4 is 1.5, round down to 5, or 2 points. Round down to 1 or 2 points.
2 points.
So, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good.
So it's an area of effect weapon, which means it will hit everything in that hex, and it'll hit a level above the hex, which is kind of cool.
It's a cheeky way of getting like a VTOL or something.
If you can get it to fly over a minefield, that's pretty cool. Mine clearance rounds reduce the density of any minefield type by the value equal to the MC volley's rated damage to a minimum of 0. If more than one minefield is present in the target hex, all fields are affected equally. So, for example, an LRM 15 firing mine-clearing munitions will reduce a 20-point density minefield to 5 points. This is all on 370 of TAC Ops. They're Federated Suns 3069, and yeah, they're not compatible with Artemis, Narc, or Streak, but that's pretty much standard. And they're advanced tech level.
Okay.
But
So before that time, you've just got to stick with pushing your opponent's mech into the hex to clear it. Come here, you.
yes, yes, basically. But this gives you an option for people that take a lot of minefields, or if you know there's going to be minefields, or people with thunder ammunition, you can go, I'm going to ruin your day and give my SRM carrier 1 ton of this, and it's going to go and that 30-point minefield that you were so pleased with is gone.
You know, the light SRM carrier would be kind of good for that.
Yeah.
It's got better speed. You know, it's a wheeled vehicle and things like that. So just get it in there and just, 5.
I've definitely been looking at
them. 6s or something.
Yeah.
That can clear a lot.
It can
turret.
do a lot.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually looking to maybe get a couple of those minis, because that's one I want to get. I've got a couple of SRM carriers, but I haven't got any light ones. No. So, but yeah, that's I mean, there's a bunch of other missile types that we haven't gone into, but that one's specifically mentioned in hot loading. So I thought, well, we better go through that.
Loading, I can see that being very handy for someone, especially like the catapult we did mention, and that's a great example. That's really good.
I think it is a very solid optional rule for people that are using a lot of LRMs. I think catapult or anything similar to that, where you've got the launcher and the ammo separated, I would say yes, definitely, 100%. If you've got something like an archer where you've got the launcher and the ammo in the same location, I'd be a little bit iffy about it.
Yeah.
Because that 2 to 5 on a 2d6 every time it explodes, I mean, it still has to explode. Somebody has to get a critical hit, and that critical hit has to be the LRM carrier, the LRM launcher.
Yeah.
And then you have to roll 2d6 and you have to get a 2 to a 5. So it sounds risky, but if you look at it that way, it's not that bad, right?
Unless, well, I don't know. That's potential 2 ammunition explosion hits to a mech warrior. That can knock you out.
That can knock you
That's
out.
bad.
It's not good. But it doesn't, it isn't like that big of a possibility. Like I say, you actually have to get a critical in order to critical that thing. It doesn't matter if the location's wiped out.
Yeah.
I think if you still get like criticals, I think the LRM launcher, if it's hot loaded, would count as an explosive
option for that too.
For when you're rolling your criticals and transferring them and stuff.
Yeah.
If you don't know what I'm on about, just check our video on critical hits. I think it would count as an explosive item, so you would have to check and see if it got hit. And that means if you check to see if that got hit and it gets hit, then you'd have to do your 2d6 to see if you hit the ammo as well, which would suck. But you technically have to critical it before it has to roll that. So it's, I don't know. It's kind of up in the air, but with a catapult, something like that, I'd definitely be doing this.
Yeah, that's good.
It's, I mean, if your group allows it, obviously. It is an optional rule. But taking away that bloomin' minimum range, I am quite happy with. I think that's awesome.
All the clan players say, no, you can't have it, no.
That's our thing. That's why we rip your missile launchers off and take them home.
That's it.
Yeah.
Keep all your stuff.
All the stuffs. Oh. That's why mixed clan bases is, tech bases is so cool.
Yeah. Interesting. Thank you.
Good.
That's really good, man.
Yeah, I quite like that one. I think that is very, very, very useful. But, I mean, obviously it's up to people that are playing the game to decide whether they want to use it or not. Cat players, I think you want to look at this one seriously.
Yeah, it's a winner.
All good. All right, well, you guys stay groovy, and we'll see you in the next one, eh?
Later.